Well, hello everyone. It is Friday, the 12th of April. 3 days till tax day's deadline, so get her done. Welcome to the weekly blog. Now today we're going to do one, hopefully it won't take too terribly long. I've got a little homework in this one, if you're up for it, just to see what you think, and do comment what you thought of the show in the comment section on the YouTube where you find this show being placed. So here we go. First, we want to start out with some good news. Grandma made it to 90 years old this week. We had an eclipse to celebrate it. That's how momentous the occasion was. So, what do you say we get past Grandma and get into today's little bit? If you like this content, please go to CallDelToSell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. Well, let's talk a little bit about the CPI. We know it went up. If we watch the news, we knew we had an unexpected big jump in it. And we know that we've been seeing inflation continuing to rise, not really slow down like they hoped. And that leads us to a problem because we're focused, so many of us are hyper-focused on the Fed rate that we're not paying attention to the big picture. And the big picture is most of us have fixed incomes of some sort off of a salary or retirement or something. We're not necessarily productivity based or return based, dividend based type of thing. And so we really are pigeonholed into what our money is. So if that pool of money doesn't change and inflation keeps going up, we tend to look, if we're looking at buying a house, to be very concerned about the cost of a mortgage. But the cost of a house for most of us, especially if we use escrow, is not limited to just the fixed rate mortgage. You know, we have the principal and the interest, but we have the other two things which show up in our mortgages, which are the insurance and taxes. And it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. Thought, well, why is my mortgage going up next, in the second year if I had a 15-year fixed? It's because that thing most of us see as a mortgage is a combination of the PITI, or principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And if inflation is eating our lunch, then that means that the cost of stuff it takes to build a house and to fill a house is going up, which also means if there's a flood or a burnout or something, or a tree falls on our house, our net result is it's going to cost more to put it back at some future date than it did when we bought it. And so if we have insurance, chances are that the insurance is going to go up every year, and it may go up by a large amount. How does the CPI reflect that? Or does it concentrate on some small things more than other things? So we have that we're going to look at just very, very briefly. But we also need to think about, are we the type of person that continues to rent? Now, you hear some real estate people say rent is 100% interest. No, it's not. Rent is an expense. Okay? It's like buying dinner. Okay? You buy dinner, you buy your steak, your potato, whatever, you eat it. In 24 hours, you're done with it. That's all the enjoyment you're going to get out of that dinner. Your rent, whether it be transient, whether it be a vacation rental by owner, so you're going to transiently stay in someone else's home for a while, or you're going to extended stay, or you're going to rent an apartment. When you're done with that month's rent, it's just gone, okay? And because insurance is going up and taxes are going up, we're likely to see your rent go up. And there's nothing when you're done with that you have to show for it. Now, if you buy a home, you will have maintenance you're going to have to take care of, and that's going to be part of it. But inflation, because houses are built with stuff and filled with stuff, and stuff costs money, if the value of money continues to decline, the value of that asset that you locked into when you bought it with that mortgage, whether or not you think it was 5 points or 2 points too high on the mortgage, is a factor, but it's locked in. And so as the value of that goes up, as the cost of that goes up, chances are it's going to drag your net worth up with it. Now, there's no guarantees in life, but it has been kind of the historic trend that the cost of housing has gone up. And if you own a house, you're going to be worth that next appraisal amount on that value of that house as it goes up. So if inflation is really bad and you have a house, it's not as hard on you as it is on someone who's renting. And so that's why rich people don't really care so much about inflation, because they have various kinds of assets in different asset classes. Gold, silver. Some people consider Bitcoin an asset. I don't, because it's not worth anything. It's just a speculative thing. It's not really even an investment, and you never know what's going to happen because we don't even know how it works. We have blockchain. That's not really how it works. Who owns it? Who's going to pay for it? Whatever. It's not really a currency like we think of it, because we can take the franc, we can take the pound sterling, we can take the dollar, we can take the yuan. They're issued by countries, and we can take those things and exchange them freely in shops and coffee shops and hairdressers, and to buy stuff on Amazon. The Bitcoin and all of the cryptos really aren't there. People are buying into them because they see them as a safe haven or a value store. So they're bought as a hedge against a currency. In our case, it's the dollar. And the dollar is being depreciated very, very quickly, especially since 2022, when they spent all of the money with all of the stimulus and all the freebies and the giveaways. That extra money in circulation devalued yours and your savings and your salary. So I have some homework in today's show I want you to look at if you're up for it. I'll put the link in the description of the status chat over on the YouTube page where you find that. But first, we want to go look and see how all of this works, because we talked about the CPI, which jumped up, and it has been jumping up. We see the PPI, or the wholesale price, which tends to lead the lagging CPI, because one is the producers, the other is the consumers. And so if the consumers is jumping up, maybe next month we'll see it not jump up as much. But as long as jobs are good, there's really no reason for the Fed to want to get off of the QT, the tightening, to the easing. So let's look at our screen right here and see what is shelter, because we refer to shelter in the CPI report all the time. And this, it says here, shelter component increased by 0.4%, 0.4%, month over month, and it's 5.7% year over year in March. So that's the cost of shelter. Now, when we look at the cost of shelter, you're either going to pay rent, in which case you're paying on someone else's equity, and you're just like that steak dinner, 24 hours later it's done. When you're finished with that month of that lease, it's done. You've got nothing for it. You've gotten all the goodie out of that net it's going to be. Or you buy property. I'm not pushing second homes and other things of that nature and investments. Just look at it from the homeowner to the non-homeowner. When you are owning a home, the inflation tends to prop the value of that home up. So again, houses are built with stuff, they're filled with stuff. If the cost of stuff goes up, then the stuff that's already been purchased in the form of a finished residence, that's likely to want to go up and climb up with inflation. So you've got that versus nothing at all on the other side. The other thing you look at is, what are you going to do? You got to live somewhere, right? Are you just going to wait for the yellow brick road to descend from the clouds and this 0.75%, if we had 3/4 point steps? Do you really think, have you calculated what 0.75 percentage points does to your mortgage price? Are you looking at the fact that shelter has gone up 5.7% year over year in the index? Now let's look and see what that how that's worked out. And here we're going to go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I already got something highlighted. Let's go up to the top line, grab it. And what do we see up here? U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, I'll give the link, Consumer Price Index, measuring price change in the CPI, rent and rental equivalents. Okay, that would typically be something closer to the definition of purchasing a home, because they're figuring what your shelter, they're trying to lump it into one category. And I need to make myself go away right here so that we can see this, and it gives you the definition. You can read that, but I want to just look at this right here. This is the category, how it's weighted in that basket of goods that we have going on in the CPI. And the CPI is an index. It's not an actual measurement of the price of things. It's the measurement of select price of things with some mathematics that fudges the importance of them. And even the CPI and the PCE, which the Fed actually uses to make decisions on, weight housing or shelter differently. So shelter is rated on the index as this number right here. and it's broken down into rent, basically lodging away from home, and owner's equivalent. Okay, that would be more towards your mortgage. So most of it is tied, looks like, by percentage of weight into owner's equivalent of rent of residence. Okay, but you see what this is. It's a portion of it. Now, one of the things it doesn't measure very accurately and give much credit to is this 0.4% here, tenants and household insurance. Now, why is that particularly important? Well, most of us, when we buy a house, unless you choose not to escrow, we have a mortgage, and then we have two other things. And so I have had people say, well, I don't understand. I got a fixed rate 15-year mortgage. Why is my mortgage going up every year? And your mortgage isn't. It's your escrow account with your escrow in there that's going up. Because if you've got a 15-year fixed, assuming you don't have a buy down or something like that into it, if it's just a conventional type of mortgage, an FHA type of mortgage, and it's fixed, your principal and interest don't change. It's been fixed on the chart. But what does go up is your taxes, because inflation and what all is making that home go up in value. So every so many years, that gets reassessed and your taxes go up. And so do your insurance costs, because what is a house built with? It's built with stuff and it's filled with stuff, and inflation is how much more stuff costs. So if it's going to cost more to build that house because inflation has hit it, and you own the house and someone is insuring it against it burning down, flooding out, tree falling on it, earthquake, whatever you might have, the cost of building it back or doing repairs is going to go up. It's only logical to expect your insurance to go up. So what we think when we stub a check or do the electronic transfer, the ACH, we think of that as our mortgage going up. It's not our mortgage going up. It's just if we're on a fixed rate, it's the cost of those other things. Now let's look back at that center panel and see what they say. See, they're only showing the importance, the weight of household and tenant insurance is only going up 0.4 of a point in its weight. So if we see a huge jump in insurance costs, and they've been skyrocketing, it's not really being counted in the CPI like we might expect it to. So it may be underweighted in the cost of owning a home or renting a place. And so I think at 0.4% certainly is a little bit different. Now, when we look at the PCE, the Fed's preferred thing that they want to look at, it actually weights shelter and housing differently than the CPI. So these numbers that they throw at us month after month to try to convince us that the sky's not falling, or is not bad, or is getting better, or just hold on to the election, or whatever it might be that they want you to believe, the reality is we've got to get inflation under control. Which brings me to my next bit, which happens to be your homework for this week. This is a video that I found on YouTube. You see YouTube right up there in the corner, and you see what I've got highlighted. This kind of clickbaited me into seeing what it is. I don't know who these people are on Value Entertainment. That's a check mark. I have heard the name Peter Schiff. We don't go out for beers and hoagies together, so I don't hang around with this guy. But what it says here is recession is the cure. Peter Schiff says the Fed needs to raise rates to save the U.S. dollar. It's a little bit of a video. I watched it. It's not so terribly long, but it's not a short, so you will have to watch it. And I want you to listen to the argument, see if it makes sense, what the Fed needs to do, and then ponder whether or not you think the Fed will actually do it to get inflation under control. Because inflation is a thief. It steals away your savings. It steals away your buying power. And so you need to just really start to seriously think, do you really believe we're going to get a handle on inflation? And is that rumored or speculated upon 0.75% of interest that might be reflected on your mortgage because they're not pinned directly? Is that 0.75% going to give you more money back into your pocket than the food, the insurance, the cars, the credit card, everything else you need in life, your medical expenses, which are really going up? Is that 0.75%, if you were to get it, is it really going to offset the inflation? So what do we really need to be hoping for most is that we stop the insane spending and the rapid devaluation of the dollar, so that the dollars you have saved are worth something. And That's one bit. The other bit is if you're renting, I think it's a good idea as a personal person, just a simple human being, for you to get out of that. I bought a steak, I ate a steak, 24 hours later, I've got all the use I'll ever see out of that steak. When you pay a rental bill, if you're not owning, at the end of that period, you've got nothing to show for it. You were dry and warm maybe for that lease period, but that's it. If you buy a home, because it's made with stuff and filled with stuff and stuff is costing more money, the value of your property in general will kind of ride up with inflation, and you at least have something that is kind of pigeonholing it. If you can lock in at a mortgage rate and you can get by with that, if it ever goes down, you can refinance. If it goes up, you did the right thing and you're already safe. So what do you want to do? So that, my homework is watch that show right there and comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think they're just pessimist or they're opportunist or they just want clicks or whatever you think. Tell me what you think. I'd appreciate it. Hello, I'm Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, CallDelToSell. That's 1 L and Del, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Okay, the numbers from last week, 4/5 of 24, we had 18,754 opportunities. That includes coming soons. That went up over the previous period. 4,409 were the under contracts still showing. They also went up, and the integer ratio between those two specific things had not changed from 24% as it was the previous week. Today, the 12th, remember you've got 3 more days to get those taxes filed if you haven't done them yet, or to file an extension. For 12 of 24, we had 18,912 in the opportunities. That went up. And we have 4,492 in the under contracts still showing. They also went up. But the ratio between them remains stable at 24% for the second week in a row. So that should be enough for this week. I want to congratulate Mama, Grandma, in hitting 90 and everyone who survived the big eclipse of 2024, as well as we're going to have to start doing some serious thinking about tactics. And of course, that's going to require people to face some fears and to just use their own God-given common sense on what they think the future holds. If it gets worse, where do you want to be? If it gets better, where could you later move to or jump to or transition to? Or are you just hoping on a prayer that something magical happens out of the blue? Appreciate you watching. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your frenemies, enemies, and anybody else to watch the show. It helps. It encourages me to continue to put this effort in on a weekly basis, and we hope to see you somewhere. Thank you.